pandemic. Some would even argue that the crime that we are experiencing in the city of Flint as well as in other cities is a systemic issue that could be related to health, could be related to a pandemic nation, could be related to a lack of social interaction because of pandemic children. You are a newly elected city council person. You're working with the city council that seemingly operates sometimes in more personality than they do in diplomacy. There are a lot of challenges that are before you, a lot of contracts, a lot of bids. The mayor is trying to move the city forward economically and socially. So what do you see as the barriers, or what do you see as the win-win to try to move the city forward, especially with the kind of funding that's here now?
Well, the win-win is getting the constituents involved. Because as a constituent, her name is Claire McClinton, she made it blatantly clear. She said, that is not your money, that is our money. So realizing that your money, we need for the citizens to be educated on what the ARPA monies are for. We need for them to have examples of ways that ARPA dollars are spent. Then we need for them to tell us how to spend it. Because if their voice is not present at the table, then we don't know what to do. And one thing that I do not want to do, I don't want to satisfy my needs with ARPA dollars. I'm only one person in a ward of over 7,000 people. I want to make sure that all voices are heard. So in order for us to strategically and methodologically get this done and get it done right. We need people to know that your engagement counts, your opinion counts, your presence counts. So when we have these ARPA meetings, we need for you to show up and tell us what to do with your money. Because we're not going to receive my knowledge. I'm pretty confident I can say this. In my lifetime, I don't think we're going to get another $94 million dropped on us. Hey, do good with it. So we need to make sure that we are good stewards of the funds.
Okay. Thank you. So, which brings us to basically the king of the hill, if you will. We know that this is General Motors City, and that majority of the workforce is still employed by General Motors. Major part of the tax revenue of the city of Flint and Genesee County is due to strong financial of General Motors and the fact that we build the best America right here in the city of Flint. And so Mr. Dawes, as UAW Region 1 Director, you know that there was an announcement made about the investment of dollars into two particular cities. Flint had already been the recipient of investment by General Motors. But of course, anytime General Motors makes announcements, people want Flint to be part of it. And so seeing where we are now with electric trucks, electric vehicles, the national mandate to go totally electric by 2030. These statements have a lot of people in Flint and surrounding areas worried about the viability and the strength of our Flint Assembly Truck plant, the engine plant. Can you speak to how the previous economic development, what will the economic development look in the future, and how GM will continue to pack the city and the county?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, Chris, thank you very much for this opportunity, because I think, getting our members of this great city and this great state educated on really what's going on, at least can calm the nerves a little bit and at least be able to understand. So I'm going to try to condense this as small as I can. So the future is definitely going to be electric vehicles, but we really don't, we think we know what that looks like today, but we really don't. The battery technology from what it was 3 years ago to what it is today is totally different. And in the future, there's a lot of talk now about hydrogen. Hydrogen, you need water. There's a lot of different stuff about that. So we really don't know what that looks like. Some of the things that are different with internal combustion engine and batteries is you can take a diesel engine or a gasoline engine and produce it and ship it around, basically around the country, and it's relatively easy to ship in the back of a truck. Batteries are totally different. There's a different safety mindset. There's a different, they take up a lot more room as we know them today. So that's why I believe you've seen the investment in Lansing, because that will generate the batteries for the 2 assembly plants there. Truck plant here in City of Flint has just a few years ago had a $1.6 billion investment. Let's don't forget about that. And we talk about billions. Maybe you were talking about millions, and we talk about billions. And I do this just to put it in perspective for people. If you were going to take $1 million and turn that into seconds, something we know very much about, seconds, right, in our lives, that comes out to about 11 days. Now, if you take that same billion and turn it into seconds, that's 31 and a half years. So when they're talking putting billions of dollars, that's a lot of investment. So the truck plant, it was huge investment for the city of Flint. It started out with the the paint shop, then it moved to the body shop, then a new trim shop, and they're just added a $25 million addition to the building for strictly storage, because we're building so many different models of the trucks, so many different accessories, we have to have room over there to plant. And General Motors is not bailing out, no way. In Flint, matter of fact, they're adding on a little piece right now, is because the footprint of the truck plant, there's so much water runoff in the parking lots, whatever. They are, General Motors, being economically and ergonomically savvy, they're building a water-oil separator right there, so that the water that's coming off of the factory roof and off of the pavement is going to be filtered out before it gets put back in the sewer system. So General Motors, we have a good commitment out of General Motors. So when you look at the footprint of the car and truck business, Arlington and Flint Assembly are the 2 big money makers for General Motors. They are literally a huge part in funding this new technology of battery and EV vehicles. We run about 51 jobs an hour over there. About 1,050 trucks a day are getting built out of Flint Truck Assembly. And I will tell you, you can pick out any one of them trucks, and if you go down 12th Street and you look on the railroad, there's frames sitting there. Pick out any one of them frames. Somebody in this world, in this country, is waiting for that truck. That's the demand of these trucks. So Flint's going to be here to stay. And as a director, I sure as heck going to do my part along with these local politicians. But keep one thing in mind when we look at electric vehicles. The thing that changes in electric vehicle is the propulsion system. It's no longer going to be an internal combustion engine, which we don't really know what the life cycle of that is. General Motors has made statements about, by 2035, and that they're going to be 100%. That may be a goal. I don't know that we'll reach that. It depends on technology. If you take your cell phone right now, nobody in this room could tell me 10 years ago that you would be holding the cell phone you have today and the capabilities of that.
Right.
So we really don't know that. But let me get just a little more information on these vehicles. So there's only so many assembly plants. And I looked that General Motors is not looking to build new assembly plants. They're going to be building supports to these assembly plants, like a battery plant. Flint Truck just put in an LLC plant, which is a kitting plant and a sequencing plant internally in the building. But the body, the framework, the suspension, all of them things that not only make the truck or the vehicle look good, but make it safe for our people to drive, that doesn't really change. So that part of it doesn't. It's really the combustible part of it. So I look forward to investments here in the Flint and Genesee County area, just like we did in Lansing. We represent 73 to 83 counties. So that's all my members over in Lansing, too. So it's great news. That's why I was there at that announcement. But let's don't forget about the things that we've done here in Flint, right? Lear Corporation came here to Flint from Rochester Hills and brought about 150 people at first. Now they're over 650 people. When we did the Carrigan water line, I was very involved with that. We got them to bring the pipe company here out there on Pearson and 475 that a lot of naysayers said they're only here to build pipe for the Carrigan water line. Well, guess what? They built that 100%. They're still building and shipping pipe across the country today, and they're looking to put another shift on. That's in the city of Flint. That's the great news. That's the things we ought to be talking about.
Okay, thank you. So you represent 83 counties, 73?
73 of the 83 counties.
Of the 83 counties in Michigan, you represent 73?
Yes.
Wow, wonderful. All right, the church as an institution, as we know it, is often under attack, especially in the 21st century, because people seem to be intimidated by what they call megachurch pastors or large churches, or the fact that some reformations have been caught up in lawsuits that may be of a sexual abuse nature or money laundering and things of this nature. But I think all of us are astute enough to know that any community that does not have a thriving church or a thriving school is on its way out. And so, as a pastor, I see the church as a conduit to helping every community survive and live. Even right now, Steve, you have a lot of UAW workers not only watching but sitting in this room who are active, thriving members of this church that feeds the hungry, that clothes the naked, that sends money abroad for international ministry, that provides educational opportunities with our school partnership with the ISD, that provides also after-school programming, things of this nature. But it seems like today, in the 21st century, communities have a problem embracing the church and the pastor, especially if the church has been progressive, if the church can look affluent, if the church can look like it should, that is affecting lives of people, and that the people inside the church are blessed. Sometimes people in the community seem to have a problem, and for some reason lately there's been a disconnect seemingly between church and government, church and community, but not necessarily church and government. Pastor Alexander, you pastor a very affluent, thriving church. You're seated right on the border of Mount Morris Township and Flint, two urban communities, two minority communities, where you have to preach hope in a place that has suffered so many losses. Please explain to this body and to those that are watching, how can the church remain in the front and vigilant as it pertains to crime, economic development, and what our role is?
I think that speaking for the church, on behalf of the church, one of the things we as the church have to do is we have to really get caught up with the times that we are in. The format that we do church in may not be conducive for the times that we're in. Even with this pandemic, I know church has really changed in the last 2 years, where we're used to having people in the building. And now church is way more digital now. So now I think it's important for the churches of the city to unify and come together and give each other help, resources, different ideals, because we're dealing with a different type of generation than we was with our grandmothers and our grandfathers who enjoyed getting up, coming to church every Sunday. Now, the biggest part of my membership would rather look at church on Facebook. So that's an adjustment, but I think forums like this that when we incorporate things like social media and we enhance, we have partnerships with the city and different entities of the county, if we can get involved and we can all come together as one instead of being separate entities and separate churches. We all live in the same city, so we all need to be together. We all need to talk to one another. We all need to bounce ideas off of one another. Times have really changed now. If you were a church trying to have church like we did 10 years ago, then you're probably going to be sitting in the building all alone by yourself, or you're going to have difficulty recruiting young folks. So I feel that it's important during this season for church to unify with government. It's important in this season for church to unify even with the UAW, because, I mean, just like Pastor Martin does, I have people in my church that are part of the UAW. It's important for church to unify with our council people, because it's different. And the generation that we're dealing with now seems to not be involved in any of those entities. And the church can be a driving force to get our young people and our young adult citizens back involved in the government, back interested in government. One of the things I push big is for the young adults at our church to vote.
Yeah.
I found out that over 50% of the young people in my church have never voted. And they're all old enough because they're disinterested in politics. They don't see how it affects them. They don't see how it can change their lives. And one of the things we really have to do is we have to let our citizens in this city know that the things we do really impact their life. And we're going to have to unify it and become a powerful entity as the church versus being a bunch of separate small entities who's not working together.
Wow, that's good. You said something, Pastor Alexander, I think is a good segue to our next set of questions. Now, if you have questions in here, just raise your hand and somebody will bring you an index card. You can fill it out and they'll bring that card to me. We'll acknowledge your question. Pastor Alexander said something about being digital. As we know, you can no longer judge the success of an event or even church, for that matter, by how many people are there, because everything now has become digital. We are live right now on 3 social media platforms, and I'm sure hundreds or maybe thousands of people around the country will watch this forum today, as opposed to their pandemic fears or just a comfort now of being able to engage digitally at home, whether it's a Congress meeting, whether it's a city council meeting, whether it's a county board of commissioners meeting, whether it's a school board meeting. Everything now is hybrid, just like this meeting is. But because we are digital, like Pastor Alexander said, our workforce has changed. Steve, General Motors is facing an aging workforce. And with an aging workforce, you have retirees and you have others who depend on this institution to continue to pump out good pensions, good benefits, and things of this nature. How sure and confident is the UAW that in a digital era, we can raise up and retain good, solid, competent workforce to continue the work that has to happen to keep General Motors in this city?
Well, you know, we have these discussions on a regular basis. Technology changes, and we really don't know what the future brings, as I said before, but, you know, a lot of the successes that are inside of our work sites, whether it be right here in Flint, as far as General Motors, or whether it be the engine plant, or Meadow Center, the tooling center, the truck and bus, and even the surrounding areas like Lear, you know, the CCA plants, one out in Davison Road, one out in Swartz Creek, is that our members are the key. And when I look at the success of General Motors, it's on the back of our members. I mean, we're going to celebrate this coming Friday, the 85th anniversary of the sit-down strike that ended on February 11, 1937. And I got to tell you, that agreement was a one-page agreement. And our members that took on the largest corporation of the world at that time only wanted a voice at the table. That's all they wanted. That first agreement didn't have anything about pensions and health care, none of that. That came years later. But because of our members and their due diligence and their support, we continue to go to the bargaining table and preserve our jobs. We're talking about the future and talking about the technology changes and robotics and what have you. But the bottom line is you can only technology replace so much. You still got to have the mind and the hands of and the souls of our people working in our facilities that give a doggone about this community and their job, and they give back to this community, and robots don't get to do that.
Right, okay. So we're digital. We're digital and we're hybrid, and so Councilperson Liddell Lewis, what happens with the educational disparity? First of all, do you think there's an educational disparity in the city of Flint as it pertains to other municipalities that surround Flint? Secondarily, how can government work with the church in order to bridge that gap? We talked about a lot of funding that's going on right now. So you have Flint schools, and then you have, of course, 20 other districts. So how does that work? Will there be, or have there even been thought about a discussion on how the city works with the county and maybe the church to bridge that gap? Because like he said, they're going to need a viable, stable workforce.
Okay, Bishop, you just asked like 9 questions in one sentence. So you want to know how?
First of all, do you think there's an educational disparity in Flint?
I believe that it is, especially with the pandemic, being schooled at home, that further increases the educational disparity. So yes, I do.
Now explain that. You're saying being schooled at home further increases the educational disparity. Why?
Because a lot of parents, when we really dive into this, we need to look at the racial wealth gap. And
the racial wealth gap. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely have the racial wealth gap. And a lot of African Americans in the city of Flint, I'm just gonna come this way, Black History Month, we work lower level jobs that require your presence there, okay? So we have people that are not able to stay home with their children and help them log on, assist them with things that they need assistance with. So that right there caused a pivot for those families. And that pivot have caused a big discrepancy, a big gap in learning. Because if you don't have someone giving you hand-on-hand instruction, then it's a little difficult to keep kids' attention. Because my child, he's 7 years old, and because I am able to stay home with him, I can give him that. But what the parent that works first shift, they can't, they struggle. Parents that work second shift, well, they struggle. So that's one thing that we must keep in mind.
Okay. So go ahead, Commissioner Nolden.
Actually, I think that's a great question, a great segue. And by me being a former educator, I taught in Flint Community School for 25 years. STEM education is very important. And that encompasses everything that Steve was talking about and also what Liddell was talking about. But I think that's where an opportunity where partnerships between the churches and the schools could actually play a part too, because we have these kids that are now doing a lot of virtual learning. And they might have some shortcomings or might need some help in certain areas. That when we have churches that might have computer labs or have
like we do here.
Yeah. Or have resources where they can actually have some tutorial maybe after hours where these kids could actually come and be able to learn that. And when we talk about STEM, we're talking about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Right. That is the key. These kids are so tech savvy right now. We need to really enhance that and really be able to push it because, you know, I got kids that come to Burston now, 7, 8, 9 years old. They can do stuff with a phone that we could never even dream of. Right. You know, so I think that's something that we really, really need to look at, and that's where I think that we could have some synergy with the churches, with the schools, and with some of these recreational facilities as well, because I think it's got to be a village to raise these folks. So that's one I just wanted to mention.
Go ahead.
And also want to jump in here. So I am a big advocate of speaking up and speaking out. And we need for our schools to listen to the parents. That's one thing that I noticed that we struggle with. So if the schools listen to the parents, then they'll know that, hey, we're having these struggles. Please give us assistance. I work first shift. I'm a single parent. So now you messed up my babysitter, schooling. Yeah, because we have a system here. So when the parents speak out and the school board actually listens, then they'll know that, hey, okay, I'm having issues. So we can partner with Cathedral of Faith to set up.
That's where I was going.
Oh yeah, and that's where I'm coming to. Yeah.
So is that out of bounds? Commissioner Nolden, Dr. Lewis, is it out of bounds then for the church to say, hey, we will present a program, RFP, we will present something that fits into one of your buckets so that the church can help offset that particular need? I mean, is that something that's worth a discussion? Because I think we got what y'all need. We got the folk that are retired. How many retirees? All retired people, raise your hand. See? Now, all retired GM people, raise your hand. See? So we have people who...
Absolutely, and it'll definitely serve a community benefit. But again, this is the situation that we have, especially in the Flint community schools. We have a place where they're not listening to parents. We're 2 years into this pandemic. So we should have been working this out and having this discussion 2 years ago, because I know parents were speaking out saying, I am having a hard time homeschooling. Now, don't get me wrong. It's important that a lot of the kids, that they stay home and stay safe, because we've seen that COVID is real and it's taking people out. So when we pivot, we need to make sure that we're listening to people. See, one thing you can't do, you can't make decisions on behalf of the people without the people. You can't do things on my behalf without including me at the table. Because if you are doing that, then you're not working on my behalf.
That's right.
And we need to change that.
Okay. Got a question. This is for Steve. Do you foresee a drastic change in the employment of Flint Assembly or GM as a whole when GM is transitioning from building vehicles now to electric vehicles in the future?
You know, that's a $1 million question, literally. No crystal ball, but I can tell you 5 years ago, would not have believed that the Flint Truck Assembly would have roughly everything combined about 6,300 hourly employees. But because of the due diligence and the commitment that our members have made at that work site, and that whole corner, is that General Motors made the decision to move vehicles there. They closed other truck plants down. Pontiac had a newer building, the newer paint shop. They had everything better, more modern than Flint Truck Assembly. But I chalk it up to the membership of Flint Assembly that stayed in there, dug the trenches when they built, back in the day when we built Blazers, Suburbans, and then switched over to the G-Van. And they were awarded this product that, as of just recently, built the only product in the whole United States, the 3/4-ton heavy-duty pickup trucks.
Excellent.
Nobody else builds them. Because of the demand now that they're going to start building some in Oshawa, some of the smaller, the lower ones in Oshawa. But no, I think we're stable. I think we're going to remain stable. As technology comes in, as these battery plants and whatever new technology will come tomorrow, we're going to take a very, very hard stance with General Motors that's our work. That's our members' work. They proved it. They're making you money, so let's keep it here.
And this is a segue. How is money actively being invested to create a better work environment for GM employees? In other words, COVID safety, apparently there's no more, and you correct this, there's no more temperature checks or cleaning touch points. So how is money being invested to keep GM employees safe?
When COVID really first started, when we all really realized it was real, and when everything was shut down, everybody remembers that point when we were all shut down, General Motors sat down jointly with the UAW and said, what's it going to take to get our people back into work sites and make it safe, which means curtains and sanitation stations and cleaning your workstation, because a lot of our jobs rotate. They invested a lot of money. And I'll use the truck plant, for example. When you walked into the truck plant, they had temperature machines there to take your temperature. You had to answer questions. You had to go through different series of things. And then the membership on their own said, look, if you will invest in us, if you'll give us the mask and you'll give us the wipes and the hand sanitizer, we'll take care of our own work sites. And they do. That's amazing.
So that's how that went?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I tell you what, from the regional standpoint, myself, my assistant director, and the servicing reps, I made sure that they went to every work site they would let us in, so we made sure that our members were coming to work safer than they would go to Myers 50 Acres and get their
Excellent.
groceries.
Thank you. Pastor Alexander, how can we unite the different religious and activist groups to bring about social reform in our community? How can we unite the different religious and activist groups to bring about social reform in the community?
And I know we hear this quite a bit. I think we do need to learn to set our differences aside.
Even if it's a different religion from Christianity?
Even if it's a different religion from
All
Christianity, we have to learn to set our differences aside and work for the bigger cause. If you don't, what happens is what we see on social media now with politics and church. They become reality shows. People start watching us just for entertainment and not what they really, people don't really receive a lot of times from the church what they should receive, or even from politics in the city, because they're watching us fight. They watching this pastor against that pastor. This pastor don't like that pastor. It's time for this politician don't like this politician. If you're the mayor, you have my 100%. If you want the election, you have my 100% support. Because
So you're saying he's the legitimate mayor?
if he want the election, he's the mayor. Whoever, it's the same thing with the president. If
He's
you're the president, you want the
that's right.
election, you're the president.
That's right.
At that point in time, campaigning is over with.
Right.
Let's support the person that has the job, give him a chance to succeed and not try to destroy them, because the more we do that, the more we tear our city up, the more we tear our communities up. How can young people take church serious when it's pastors going back and forth with each other, bad-mouthing each other? How can they take the mayor serious when we got people running him down and not holding them up? So in my opinion, all of that needs to be refined. We cannot continue to be reality shows for people or entertainment for people on Facebook and social media platforms.
So if we partner, that was good. So if we partner with groups in our city like Man Up, Peacekeepers, to deal with crime and violence, what would it look like with the church? Because these are groups that may not necessarily be housed inside of, it's not Kingdom First, it's not Cathedral of Faith, it's not New Jerusalem. These are separate groups. What does that look like, that partnership?
I think that partnership, as a pastor in my community, and I know I'm primarily serving the Beecher community the most, one of the things I do is I try to get involved in the Beecher community. One of the biggest places that I find that I have been able to deal with a lot of people who are involved in crime is the barbershop. My presence, I go up in there, I hear the different talk that guys are talking about. I hear when they planning to do what they doing, and I'm able to interject and get involved. They're able to get to know me. So once again, it's important as a leader in the community to not just sit back in our households and wait for Sunday to come. It's important for us to be out in the communities. That's why we all need to partner with one another and deal with one another so that we can unify, so that we can collectively deal with these. Even when you hear about things like people breaking in churches and stuff like that, the people in the community know who doing that stuff.
Right. That's right.
They know the guys at the barbershop know who's breaking into the churches. They know, guys, I grew up in this city. I've been a young person in this city. And they're talking amongst each other. We've made them the enemy, though.
Right.
They view us just to be just as bad as they are. They think we just want all the money. We want to take all the money and buy fancy cars and houses with.
We organize.
And it's time for us to redefine ourselves and let them know, hey, we're for the community. The church is for the community, and it should be for the community. So I just think it's important for us to all come together and set our differences aside. Excellent. If I can work with the Muslim brothers, I can work with Jehovah's Witness, I can work with Catholic, it don't matter. I feel that one of the things that show that you have Christian values is that you're able to work with different people, just like Jesus did.
All right. Thank you. Excellent. Commissioner Nolden, Flint has a lot of assets, and the people in Flint are talented and resilient. Often government discord often governmental discord slows economic development. What can the average citizen do to help decrease or reduce dysfunction?
That's
loaded, ain't it?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. One thing is you have to be involved. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu a lot of times.
Yeah.
So if you're not actively engaged in conversations around economic development, then you won't see it. And I'm just speaking precisely like North Flint. It's been historically, we haven't had the kind of investment in North Flint that we should have. And we need to be proactive as it relates to that, to make sure that when economic development ideas are being discussed, we need to be at the table and be able to advocate for that. And if we don't do that, we're going to be left behind again. So it takes community activism to do that and be involved. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on. I can just speak about what I've been able to do at Burston Fieldhouse. Burston Fieldhouse was a recreational facility that the city of Flint at the time was going to let go by the wayside when we had emergency managers. I actually started there as a volunteer.
You did.
Turned it from a volunteer into a nonprofit, and from the nonprofit, the trajectory has just been great. And we're now starting to see some investments in North Flint in certain areas. But in order to be able to keep that going, we have to be at the table and we have to be engaged, and we can't be in these silos where one person is getting something, and because that person is getting something, I don't want to have to deal with them.
Right.
You know, you got to get away from that. I'm all about trying to help anybody that needs some help. If I got it and I can help you get it, I'm gonna do everything
There
I
you
can to do that. And that's how I've always been, and that's the way I try to live my life. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that being said, working together, as you said, Pastor Alexander said, is very important. We need to not have silos. We hear something going on, we need to get involved. A couple of these questions are somewhat the same. I want to just address them, I will, but I want everyone to hear from the Nation of Islam, if you would stand. Yeah. He's that's Jalil Carter, who is, I believe, the representative of the Nation of Islam here. Yeah. So you may be seated, my brother. Thank you so much for being here. Christians and these other groups are coming together because we have to for the betterment of the community. And we have to be willing to work with everybody regardless of what they represent at that moment, as Pastor Alexander said. I want to thank you all for coming. We must keep the door open and keep people involved within the African American community. If we separate, then we're not going to be able to get anything done. There's a question here that says, what can the church do to help our community? Let me answer that, if you'd be so kind. The church has to not run from society. Jesus said, the scripture said in Isaiah that the government is on his shoulder. And so the church plays a part. And what I always like to tell people is that every king had a priest. Every king in the Bible had a priest. And your loyalty should be to the institution and not the personality. We have to make sure as pastors that we are the conscience of the governor, we are the conscience of the mayor, we are the conscience of the county commissioners, we are the conscience of the philanthropic organizations. We are the people. I keep telling people the civil rights movement started in the pulpit. Okay? We have to make sure that the black church never takes a position of inferiority or running from anyone. The reason why my good friend Steve is here is because of our relationship throughout the years. I respect him where he is. He respects me where I am. We work together. We serve together. We've stood with politicians together. We do everything together because the church has a major place. And when you look at a city like Flint, you don't have a lot of major corporations. You don't have a lot of major CEOs. You don't have these. It's the pastors. We represent the people. Pastor Threlkel, myself, Pastor Alexander, the nation, all of us who have clientele that gather in these buildings during the week, we represent one another. So when you talk about what can the church do, the first thing the church can do is stop being jealous of each other. It's not about the size of your church. It's not about what you got on as a pastor. It's not about that. It's about all of us coming together for the good of the people. And everything we do in the community is not an evangelism rallying call to get members from folks. If you ain't going to meet people naturally, they're not going to meet you spiritually. Amen. They're not going to hear us preach until we feed them. Can I get somebody talking? People don't want to hear what you got to say if they're freezing. You got to put some clothes on them. So what we have to do as a church community is come together and be supportive. The pastor ought not be as slimy as the other folks. I'll leave it right there. Mr. Dawes, and if you, those of you who are watching, if you really love your community, put hashtag I love my community in the comments, those of you who are watching. Also, if you are a part of the UAW, I want you to put hashtag I am UAW. So you can do either one. Hashtag I am UAW, hashtag I love my community, or hashtag I'm both. I'm UAW and I love my community. How many UAW retirees or people that's connected to the UAW are here? Raise your hand. Retirees, active workers of the UAW? All right, so we got quite a few in here. All right. If you ever have a problem at all, I want you to see. No, just playing. As a UAW retirees, who handles our pension? I just read what's on the card, Steve. I want you.
Well, you know, Fidelity, which is a third party, handles the pension. And General Motors, over the period of years, has separated themselves from them type of responsibilities, if you will. They're willing to pay somebody else to do that type of stuff. Just like our retirees, General Motors retirees healthcare, which is managed by the trust. I go back in time, and if it wasn't for Ron Gettelfinger and his foresight during the bankruptcy, one of the first things to go is retiree health care. And because the UAW took that on, and we don't manage it, we actually have a third party that does that too. Our retirees have that protection. Pensions are protected by the federal government, by the PBGC under the General Motors system. So there's a lot of safeguards there, but yeah, they have a third party do that. Our benefit reps are very, very schooled on fidelity and the problems we have and them type of things. So if you got a problem out there, let's talk about it. We'll try to get done. But we very, very keep a close eye on the funding for the pensions, because them are things that our retirees work very, very hard, earned, and our retirees are still a huge, huge part of our daily lives, our community, and they really make it click. So all you retirees, thank you. I love every one of you, so thank you.
Steve, I know that today is a very big day for the UAW as you all prepare to support Special Olympics, not only in presence but also financially. And today in Lake Fenton is the polar plunge. And everybody wanted to know, were you going to jump in the icy water today?
No, I just soon get the wallet out and watch it, because, okay. But it's a great program. Some of our children over the years have been born with issues, yeah. Right? And they are just as much part of this community in our lives, and we love them all. And so part of the UAW is we give back into the communities which we live and work. And this is just one of the many, many hundreds of things we do, is we're going to go out there and support this money that's going to be raised. The Flint Truck Assembly, along with some other of the UAW units that help chip in, is going to raise over $27,000 for the Special Olympics that go into our region, nowhere else, our region, to help our kids and young adults with the challenges.
As we get ready to close, before we do the keynote, and we have two panelists who have previous engagements, Dr. Lewis, many see the city of Flint, let me drill down, the city council, as being so dysfunctional that there is nothing that can be accomplished through any mayor's agenda to really put Flint where it needs to be to address economic and educational disparities. You are a freshman council person on the city of Flint. You've already been in the news for going to the bathroom seemingly at the wrong time. These type of issues are counterproductive to the well-being of the city of Flint. It is embarrassing to the city of Flint. Those of us who support you want you to know that you have our unwavering support, and that people are tired of the foolishness and the perceived foolishness of the council. But thank you, I appreciate that hand. But as a former elected official myself, whether you're a student or not, the whole body is blamed for the behavior of one or two. How will you address that going forward? There's a lot of money that's coming in this city. You got people who don't even believe the city council is going to even move on any of it to get down to the neighborhoods. What can you tell the people about that?
Well, I can only speak on my behalf, and I say that I ran on the platform of listening to the people, because if I'm just going to do what I want to do, I'm just going to do something else, do what I want to do. So I was elected to serve the people. I was elected to listen to you. I was elected to make legislation for you, and that's what I'm going to do. So if we have an issue, if you are not happy with what you see on city council, you need to contact the person who you elected.
Right.
If your council person is acting unseemly, call them up, send them an email, let them know, because your silence is giving them permission to carry on. I'm going to say it again. Your silence is giving them permission to act the way that they're acting. And I guess I'll just leave that there. My lines of communication are always open, and as some people, they're not happy with me. But when they call me, I've got cussed out, absolutely. But you know what? Yeah, I cussed out and hung up in my face. Then called me back 5 minutes later. But you know what my job was to do? To answer the phone and see what they needed. Because this is not personal. You know, people, I mean, this is their community. This is our city, and they're passionate. And I'm not taking it personal. My job is to handle that complaint and see what I can do. So if I can answer my phone, they can answer theirs. If I can answer my email, they can answer theirs. If you don't like what you see, do something about it.
Amazing, amazing. So, Steve, we know that you have to leave, and we're going to get a final comment from you and Commissioner Nolden. But if you could answer this question, these two questions wrapped into your final comment so you can go to your next appointment. I'm going to ask a two-part question and then, of course, give you the chance to make a final statement. Is that okay? Does the UAW foresee a buyout in the next contract? That's one. Two, how solvent is the retiree trust fund that manages retirees' health benefits? And then your final comment.
As far as buyouts, I don't see any of that coming anytime soon. Almost every one of our work sites, whether it be General Motors or a supporting IPS or technical office professional that we represent, are looking for people. I mean, a lot of that is, you know, COVID related with absenteeism and stuff like that, but I don't see that, but that can change at any given time. Usually buyouts don't mean good news. That means they're reducing workforce, which is not good. Far as solvent in how solvent is the retiree benefit trust, it's very, very helpful, very healthy. Thankfully, because of some great investments in the market doing so good over the last, 6, 7, 8 years. One of the things that we changed in that a long time ago was that we just don't pay investors to invest. They are actually graded and they are paid upon success of investment. So that is a huge change because now they've got skin in the game. And whenever you got skin in the game changes for yourself, right? And so that's all good stuff. But so in a closing comment, I just want to again say thank you for the opportunity here. This is really great. I think the education part for our people of this community. But I will leave it in saying this, you know. I get tired of hearing people beat up on Flint. You know, I was in many different communities through the water crisis, and I would hear comments about Flint and about, oh, they just want their water bills paid, and they just want all this paid, and I like to get in dialogue, not arguments because, you know, that's an unnecessary thing, but to get in some dialogue. So I always like to tell a little story about Flint. I wanted to polish it up a little bit, but it is too long. But I just started. You know, this city of Flint in Genesee County is such a great history. Look at what this community has went through, just some of the things in history. The Beecher tornado, the water crisis, COVID, emergency financial manager, and them are just a few of them. And guess what? We're still here.
Yeah, okay.
We're still here. Let's just talk about some of the great people that has come out of this community. So for you young people out there, if you think you're in some dead-end turn around this town, you're wrong. Some of the people have come out of here, Michael Moore, Tony Burton as an actor, Andre Rison, Scotty Parker, 9-time Grand National, my brother-in-law, 9-time Grand National flat track dirt bike rider. Nobody in the world has ever come close to 9-time being a Grand National out of this town. Jim Abbott, the only one-handed pitcher in the history of America to pitch a no-hitter. You got Chris Bird, Pam McGee, Brandon Carr, Clarissa Shields.
Yeah.
Come right out of here. Don Magano, he's an astronaut. We led 3 missions as an astronaut out of my home school, Flint Hamady. And I'll just say this, to get back at what the pastor was talking earlier, you know, I get the youth today. I see that you don't see the future, and you think that there's no hope, and it seems like everybody is after you, and you don't see the value added for me to get educated and me to vote. But let me tell you, if you have not listened to one thing I have told you, listen to these 2. One is if you do not get involved and you don't vote, there are politicians that make very, very bad decisions, and we know a lot about that in Flint, right? We had a governor that made some bad decisions that put us in the water crisis. They are counting on you not voting. They're counting on you to sit home and do nothing. They're counting on you to do that. And I will tell you this, because I'm in this house, and there is no better feeling when you got an old retired carpenter on your side that you can count on.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Steve. And Steve and I, again, have been on the front lines of many battles before politically in this city, and we're gearing up for another fight this year in 22. And I've always enjoyed the endorsement of the UAW. When I ran for political office, and the UAW knows I support them wholeheartedly. Commissioner Nolden, if you would make your final remarks, and then we'll get to our keynote, and I'll give some instructions momentarily. Go ahead, Commissioner Nolden.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be able to just engage and have healthy conversations and talk about things that are very, very dear to me. When we talk about economic development, we talk about youth development. We talk about the city of Flint, because one thing that we know, the city of Flint is a very resilient community. Like Steve just said, all the things that we've been through, we take our licks, but we still get up and we keep fighting. You know, people, and I've been around the country, different places, and people always have something negative to say about Flint. But for this town to be as small as it is, all of the great people that have come out of here, you know, that's gone on to do great things, it would be nice if some of those folks would come back and bring some of their talents back to this community. And that's one of the things that I think is very, very important. And that's one of the reasons why I'm real appreciative of our mayor, because our mayor has been doing an excellent job in trying to re-engage folks to come back here and bring their talents, their time, and some of their resources. Because we have some folks that came out of this community that are very, very, very wealthy and can make a real positive impact. So I'm all about economic development for north side of Flint. I want to thank you, Pastor, for giving me this opportunity. And I am also coming up on a re-election, and they've changed my district. So now instead of having Mount Morris Township, the city of Mount Morris, Genesee Township in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd ward, now I have just a little bit of Beecher. I have the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th ward now. So it's going to be a little bit different, but I'm up for the challenge, and I'm all about helping the people. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I do have to leave because my basketball team at Burston,
Right.
10 and under, they play at 11:30. So I told them I was going to be there.
I understand that. Right before I bring the keynote address up, I don't want anybody to move. Can everybody just clap their hands for Steve Dawes, UAW Region 1 Director, and 1st District County Commissioner Brian Nolden. Come on, let's give him a big hand. If you would stand, we'll get a picture here for the archives. Amen. And then we'll let you go. All right. You can just come right over here, BB. Yep, stand right there. All right. Gotta look your wife's way. Thank you. One more time, please. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. We're going to have some reaction from our city council person, and of course, I'm going to make you the mayor, Pastor Alexander, and Pastor Alexander. Aren't we enjoying Dr. Liddell Lewis and Pastor Antoine Alexander? We're enjoying them as well. Listen, this gentleman that's coming to us now is no stranger to me. We go way, way back. He's a little older than I, and but he has been involved in city politics for a long time. Family has a rich history in this city. And of course, he and I have been on the front lines of trying to make change for the city of Flint for a long time. God blessed him to go and spend 6 years as our 34th District State Representative, where he enacted legislation that positively impacted the city of Flint and surrounding areas. Of course, he sat on the city council as a 6th Ward city council person, and now he sits in the strong mayor seat of the city of Flint. Would everybody please stand and give the proper welcome to the honorable, elected, legitimate mayor of the city of Flint. Would you clap your hands for Mayor Sheldon Neely?
Thank you for that, Bishop.
Yes, sir.
You know, one of the things they want to do is just engage you all with saying good morning to you all, but also
Yes.
God is so good. He smiled upon us all this morning, and I always want to acknowledge that, and I want to make sure that I acknowledge the bishop and also the panelists. You know, I had some prepared words, but I listened to the panelists and listened to some of the questions. It brought forth some other ideas, and so we're going to shift to that a little bit more because I'm here to educate, edify, and engage you. Empowerment begins within. We all must do a little bit more. That's where we are here in this community. The city of Flint, 83 counties in the state of Michigan. Genesee County, 32 units of government. But we all must do a little bit more. Here at Thrust, we talk about empowerment and engagement and where we should be as a community. But something came to my mind about this community, a thing called passive corruption. Liddell talked about this. He says, if you sit at home and let apathy set in like rigor mortis in a dead body, we all are impacted.
Right.
We are some of all of our parts. It being February, Black History Month, American History Month,
Right.
we must push forward. We have an obligation to do something more. Now, we've been engaged in a world that's a much different place now. Much different place because this worldwide pandemic, this deadly virus, has changed the world. It's a much different place now. But we all must do a little bit more. When I talk about what we should do, and as a politician, I don't really embrace that title as much as a statesman. I'm an engineer by profession, retired from my profession, but engaged in productive, you know, a thing of moving us forward as a community. Because my father, my mother, my grandparents, they taught me that we all must do just a little bit more. Now, as we talk about this deadly virus, doing a little bit more is just not wearing your mask, washing your hands, or social distancing. But get vaccinated. Take your booster. Get tested.
Right.
Hearing some of the misnomers and misinformation going out there about what this is this a conspiracy against African Americans? Is this about a crisis of confidence for government? Are we being used as guinea pigs? 900,000 American citizens have lost their lives. That's a reality. You know, I hear about deaths every day. A childhood friend of mine just buried his 29-year-old daughter because she was listening to social media about taking a vaccination. We all must do a little bit more, and we're going to continue to do that. Empowerment begins within. As we look at the ecosystem of economics, economic growth, and where we are, we talk about the disparity gap with black and brown people and our engagement in this country. The dominant tendencies of this American society has not always embraced black and brown people. We know that. But we must push forward. Now, we look at the disparity in health care. When this pandemic hit, black and brown communities throughout the country suffered more. We look at the educational divide. Community school systems, much like Flint, suffers. The digital divide, kids have to learn at home, but parents can't always afford that internet. But we all must do a little bit more. So now I'm going to talk about the American Rescue Plan dollars. High-minded legislation from President Biden and the Congress and the Senate dispatched $1.9 trillion for the aid of America. The city of Flint was blessed with $94 million. $94 million. The county of Genesee, $77 million. Flint Public School District, $114 million. More than $200 million collectively. Transformational if we can get beyond the imaginary divide. So what can we do? How can we all do a little bit more? How can we engage our partners, our partnerships from the faith-based, private sector, government, and just you, the average person trying to get by, increasing the quality of your life through the residential, recreation, economics, and education and safety. 5 points of light. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. These are the things that we want to engage in. Empowerment begins within. I'm going to talk a little bit about the numbers and how we can work together to empower us all. $94 million. How are we to use that? But that is one revenue stream that doesn't speak to a structural deficit that this community has. We no longer have a billion-dollar corporation in our midst as a billion-dollar corporation. Birthplace of General Motors, they're still here, but not as they were once upon a time when we talked about the development of Industrial North, the migration of black and brown people from the southern areas of Mississippi, Arkansas, and other places came here for these great jobs. They're no longer here in that robust fashion. The forefathers failed to diversify economic base for us all to be able to have the multipliers and so that we can actually support ourselves economically. City of Flint, more than 200,000 residents at one point in time. Now we just tipped the scales at 80,000. Revenue streams dwindling. What do we do now? How do we work now? We have been blessed with many revenue streams, but we have to be blessed with a mindset to be able to say that empowerment begins within. 80 grants, more than 80 grants comes inside the city of Flint. My people have been working diligently in the last 26 months to untangle those things. The good news is that we have a bouquet of revenue streams, but passively corruptness has not always made sure those dollars get to the intended target, and that's the people. That no longer happens now. I guarantee, and one of those things that politicians never say, but statesmen will say, that we guarantee that those dollars will never miss their intended target.
Beautiful.
Now, with the help of my council and other like-minded thinkers in the faith-based area, more than 400 churches sit inside the propers of the city of Flint. And some would say society is the church's report card. But homicides, tipping the scales at 67 homicides. Black people killing black people. Retaliatory type of activity. Kids not graduating on a level that they should. Society is the church's report card. But we are society. Empowerment begins within. How do we engage these $94 million of this American Rescue Plan? And I'm going to tell you exactly how we do it. Input from the community has been coming in, but we know what our needs are. We know what we need to have happen. But these dollars were generated for the primary purpose of backfilling, meaning filling in the gap for the pandemic year. A lot of money was expended, devastating local budgets, municipal budgets, county budgets, states' budgets, to be able to offset this deadly virus. Because there's one deficit that you can never overcome. That's a death deficit.
Right.
We spared no expense to making sure we save lives in the city of Flint. If you remember, I put a curfew in, told you to go home at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because I saw a whole bunch of people hanging around the party stores after certain hours. They wouldn't go in spreading the virus to them and themselves, and so we had to take that action. We're not apologetic for it because we saved lives. Closing City Hall for more than a year, we had to save lives.
Yeah.
But we can't do it alone, Liddell, Dr. Lewis. We have to engage in a positive way. So these dollars, American Rescue Plan dollars, first goes in to backfill the gaps that we have in our community for making sure we expended those dollars in those places. So let me give you an example how that works. The city of Flint is the parent to DDA, Downtown Development Authority, which is an authority. We're the parent by statute, state statute, of two entities, DDA and Economic Development Sources of the city of Flint. The DDA pays for some of the things in the downtown area and the surrounding parts of the downtown area through its own revenue streams. Parking is one of their major revenue streams. Through the pandemic year, they could not get any parking downtown, so they fell behind on all their obligations. Bond debt that they had for the Relaford ramp. When they built the Relaford ramp, They incurred debt, they borrowed, and had to pay a bond. The city is a parent. So a $500,000 bond debt that they cannot pay because there was no parking because of the pandemic, the parent has to pay that.
Wow, didn't know that.
American Rescue Plan has to backfill that obligation. These dollars are just not drifting around to hit different places without, without checks and balances. More than 450 pages document says the rule set on how you can spend these dollars. So therefore, I said we will not move on $1 unless we had compliancy and oversight. Making sure that I can track every dollar from its inception to its expiration. Over the last 7 years, $1.5 billion of liquid money has made it through the region of the city of Flint, but it's hard pressed to be able to tell residents where those dollars are. So we're moving at a rate of caution and making sure that we do things correct. And Bishop, is it okay if I give a Bible verse to really speak to that? And this comes from Proverbs 13-20. It says that he that walketh with a wise man shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Who are we walking with? Yeah. Empowerment begins within. So these dollars is going to be dispatched for economic development, public safety, blight reduction, infrastructure repair. These are the things that we glean from you all from our surveys. We will be engaging more from you in the next 4 weeks. Coming out, and the first one is February 17th at Mott Community College, to be able to take more input. But we want to satisfy those that say they want more input, but we know where you need help, where we need help. Now, the President of the United States has now said something that we've been saying in this community for a very long time. Gun violence, devastating our community. Cowards are now pulling up to houses, shooting in houses. Real example, Messiah Williams, a 3-year-old toddler, laid in his bed in the room with his brother, 5 years old. Cowards pulls up, fires 67 rounds into a home, not even knowing if their intended target was even there. One of the rounds struck young Messiah in the back of his head as he laid in bed. His brother to witness that, devastating true innocence. How did they get these type of weapons that can penetrate walls? These assault weapons and these rifles in our community. It goes beyond the Second Amendment of our rights. So in July of last year, I declared a gun violence emergency. People said, they go Neely again, stepping out there, but we have to make sure we make these bold moves, taking guns off the street. Before I came into office, every confiscated illegal weapon that the police officers confiscated was sold at auction, de facto making all of us a gun dealer. No longer. Every weapon that we confiscate, we destroy, Dr. Lewis. It returns as a paper clip, a metal garbage can, or a stapler, but I don't care, but it would never be a weapon of mass destruction.
Right.
Empowerment begins from within. As you said, Pastor, how do we work together? More than 400 churches, whether you're COFChurch, Catholic, Baptist, Jehovah's Witness, a Muslim faith, we need to be speaking on the same level with the same note, pushing back the new negative normal of this passive corruptness to elevate us all. I will partner with churches. I will partner with the Nation of Islam. I will partner with any sector that has our agenda in mind. Can we use these dollars for programming that fits into the 400-page rule set? Absolutely we can, but it will be an application process. It's not about who you know, how many friends we have on side, but it has to be a benefit to you, the residents. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Also, when I talk about the bouquet of revenue streams, we have recast dollars. The city of Flint applied for these dollars. We just got blessed again, and not many communities throughout America got blessed again to be a recipient of these dollars. $5 million. $5 additional million for programming for communities like us. The application process is open now. It's open right now, so apply, go to the City of Flint website, Apply for those dollars for your programming needs that can benefit. I think Cathedral Faith has been a recipient of some of the recast dollars. It doesn't always have to be this one pool of money. Our CDBG dollars, our HUD dollars, all these dollars are available for use. If you have a great business idea, you don't keep that idea in a shoebox under your bed. The city of Flint was awarded for a Small Business Association $1 million grant.
Look at that. Look at that.
83 counties in the state of Michigan. Genesee County was the only county in Michigan that did not have a state park.
Right.
We have one now.
Wonderful.
Right downtown Flint. We brought it to Flint. But also with that, having a state park developing downtown, $22 million investment in the old Chevy in a Hole area. I have not forgotten about the north side of Flint. Our plan has been dispatched for the oldest African-American neighborhood in this community, which is the old St. John area. Plans have been developed and are in place. Money has been allocated for the redevelopment of the St. John area that was deconstructed, much like other communities, when the I-475 project came through in eminent domain. The plan is ready and has been developed. The draft is there, ready for your input, much like others have been given input for that plan, not costing the taxpayers 1 cent.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And so I'm going to close out, but the numbers are available. Engage. Be educated about what you're talking about. Get away from the misinformation with the thumb thugs on the social media, intimidating, bigger bullies, cyber bullies. Can I say cowards?
Yeah.
Cowards. Because they're not engaging us. Trust me. You know, I'm a simple guy with a lovely wife. She's 33 years in the game, and she still looks good to me.
All right.
I lived in 2 homes my whole life. The north side, where my mother just recently passed, where the house is still there, and where I bought a home with my teenage sweetheart. But what's important to me is all of us. How do we work together? But we all need to do just a little bit more. Educate yourself. Be about the real change that's necessary. God is smiling on us. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Bishop, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We certainly appreciate that. The key word is engage. We must engage our communities and come together. Finances and resources are here, and we need to be at the table to have healthy and crucial conversations about how we make sure that areas that are of utmost importance to us are addressed. So before we close out today, I want to give Dr. Lewis a chance to make a closing comment or remark, however she'd like, and then we'll hear from Pastor Alexander.
Thank you, Bishop. I would like to remind everyone that it is an honor to serve the residents of the city of Flint. As they say on the airplane, my travels can take me anywhere in the world, but I choose to come and serve the residents of the city of Flint. I serve at your pleasure. All of the elected officials, we serve at your pleasure. And what that means that you put us in here, you have that authority to do that, and you have the authority to take us out. So please work with us, pray for us, and as Bishop said, engage us as we work on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Give her a good God bless you. My friend and my brother, Pastor Antoine Alexander. Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you, Bishop Martin, for this wonderful opportunity. I've enjoyed every person that spoke on today. I thought it was very powerful. It just let me know how great Flint, Genesee County area really is. And I do think there was some hope put out into the community on today. Let's all work together.
Yeah.
Let's all work. Let's get rid of all the personality-driven, I don't like this person type of thing. Let's all work together, because we have a great community.
Yeah.
Any community that can withstand the things that Flint has withstand. This is the toughest community in America.
Right.
And
That's
I
true.
believe that we're still here for a reason. if we can just all work together and put it together and be our brother's keeper, we'll be fine. Thank you for the opportunity.
Those of you who have watched today, we certainly are glad that you have sat there and watched this crucial conversation. We will be back toward the end of the month with another crucial conversation. I'm not going to let you know exactly what that topic and title and panelists will be, but prepare for the end of February for us to have another crucial conversation as part of the Cathedral of Faith Black History Month presentations. Again, we thank Steve Dawes, UAW Region 1 Director, for being here today. 1st District County Commissioner Bryant B.B. Nolden, Dr. Liddell Lewis, 2nd Ward, Flint City Council person, and the pastor of that great church, the Kingdom First Church, right there on Coldwater Road, Pastor Antoine Alexander. Make sure that you tag and share this eventful broadcast today. There are people who need to hear this conversation. Again, we want to thank the Honorable Mayor of the City of Flint, who is doing a wonderful job here in the City of Flint, who is up for re-election this year, and we want to make sure that we remember that, and we also want to remember that this is a midterm year, and we will be electing senators and United States representative, as well as House representatives here in the state of Michigan, and we need to be smart, we need to be deliberate, we need to remember the party that gave the richest 1% in America a tax break. You know who they are. We need to remember the party that presided over the January 6th insurrection. You know who they are. And we need to remember the party that is against voting rights. You know who they are. And we want to remember the party that refused to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. You know who they are. We also want to remember that party who continues to fight against the first African-American female Supreme Court judge nominee. You know who that party is. And I just don't think that party deserves our support because of how they've handled us as it pertains to voting rights, as it pertains to people of color, and the advancement of colored people. I didn't say no name, but you know who that party is. So as we turn to our 2022 midterm elections, let us be wise, let us be smart, let us not make the same mistakes that they want us to make. Let's pay attention. Listen, the city of Flint has to, at some point, embrace consistency. We have a lot of projects that's going on right now. There's a lot of things that have been put in motion, and we want to remember that as well. Our governor is up for re-election as well. Everything has not been perfect. However, she has had to preside over something that she did not see coming, which was a pandemic. And even though we may not be jumping for joy over everything, our governor has done the best she can. I firmly believe that in the middle of a pandemic, she has gotten a lot of things done on a bipartisan infrastructure level. There's a lot of work to be done, but we got to remember the party that was there before that taxed retirees' pensions. You know who they are. You got to remember the party that was there before that cut the money from our educational funds for all of our people of color. You know who that party is. So don't get caught up with the okie-doke of that party. Make sure that you vote responsibly. And of course, since we're talking about judges, which is very important, I want Ms. Mary Hood to stand. And I believe she is seeking a position with the Circuit Court. She is on the ballot in August for Circuit Court Judge. Mary Hood, if you remember her name, give her a good God bless you. She has served, I believe, as a magistrate in the other areas of our district court. So you want to make sure that you meet her today and check her out. We need more African-American representation at our district court. So we want to end today with prayer. One of my colleagues are here, Pastor Freelon Threlkeller. I'm going to ask him to come, and he would grab that mic. Can he grab this mic over here and give us a dismissal prayer? If everybody would stand, I want to thank, grab that right out of there. I want to thank, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to thank all of you for coming. Is he good? All right, come right here to the podium so everybody can see you. Mr. Mayor, we'll take a photo of him. All right. Did you turn it on? Make sure you click it. Click that button right up there. Oh, push that to the turn green.
Testing.
To the turn green. There you go. You good.
Testing.
Whoa. Step right here. Step right here.
Sound like a preacher's man. God bless you, Bishop, and to all of you, let us bow. Precious Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this hour. We thank you for your Holy Ghost power. Yeah. We pray, mighty, that you continue sending your blessings on down. Oh, Lord, we need you. Oh, we walk among strangers. We walk among people that minds are not on the same thing. And as we stated, if we just come together, Lord, you know our hearts, our mind, continue showing us the way, and we will follow. We need your love. We need your understanding because you first loved us. And as we get ready to leave this place, we ask for your guidance on every day. And all these blessings we ask in your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. God bless you. Dr. Lewis. Okay.